Nina Hachigian, Deputy Mayor for International Affairs for Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti.
Good morning everybody, especially to the students out there. It is my honor to introduce the British Ambassador to the United States, Dame Karen Pierce. I'm very pleased to have this honor because we in LA value so much our relationship with the UK. UK firms create more jobs in LA City than those of any other country. We have many exciting collaborations underway on sustainability, mobility, and the Olympic and Paralympic Games legacy. And of course, Mayor Garcetti is looking forward to working closely with the UK as we approach COP26 to highlight and leverage the ambitious action that cities are taking to confront our global climate emergency. I had the pleasure of working with the previous Consul General of the UK here in LA, Michael Howells, who is now working with you, Ambassador Pierce, lucky you. And I want to welcome the new British Consul General in LA, Emily Cloak, with whom I'm very much looking forward to continuing our strong partnership. I don't imagine that there's anyone more qualified than Dame Karen Pierce to take on her critical role as the United Kingdom's ambassador to the US at this time. Before this post, she was a permanent representative to the United Nations in New York since March 2018. And before that, she had an amazing diplomatic career, holding a series of important roles such as Director General for Political Affairs in London, an earlier posting during the George W. Bush Clinton transition at the British Embassy in Washington, in Tokyo, and as team leader for Ukraine and Belarus. I'm sure her insights on those countries would make for a very different, interesting discussion that we could have. Ambassador Pierce has also had her share of work in conflicts as well, serving in the Balkans as the Balkans coordinator from 2002 to 2006, a job which may have prepared her better than any other for her role in the US at this current time. She was the UK's special representative for Afghanistan and Pakistan, and later was appointed to be ambassador to Afghanistan. Dame Pierce is also the first woman to serve as British ambassador to the United States. Please join me in welcoming Ambassador Karen Pierce. Ambassador, I think you have to unmute.
You're muted, Ambassador.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Thank you for that. Technology is not one of the things that you'll have heard the Deputy Mayor read out on my CV, so I apologise. Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor, for that very kind introduction. I think it's fantastic that an important, vibrant city like Los Angeles specifically has a Mayor's Deputy for International Affairs. I think that's a great sign, and would love to see it extended to other cities, including my own country and to London maybe. Hello to everybody who's tuned in today. It's very kind of the Los Angeles Business Council to ask me. Great honor to be here. We do a lot with California, as the Deputy Mayor was saying. We export you Hollywood villains. An industry that is worth billions in both directions and is growing, the creative arts industry. And of course, we have lots of tech and other artistic collaborations. I'd like to start, if I may, though, by offering my very deep condolences and those of the Embassy, Consulate and British government on the wildfires. I know this is another huge burden for California, coming on top of a difficult time with the pandemic. So we send you all our sympathy, and if there is anything at all we can do to provide assistance in any way, I hope you won't hesitate to get in touch with me or with Emily at the Consulate General. I think, turning to today's topic, I think we all feel that we're at a turning point for the planet. California and the West Coast present a fantastic vision of the future. Californians take pride in the phrase, California where the future happens first. And California, as you know, has had the most incredible impact on technology, on agriculture, on science, and on modern culture. And its business and economic success, its diversity, its values have been totemic around the world. But I think that phrase, the future comes first, is also a very important warning to us that we need to be careful that the wildfires don't become the norm in California or elsewhere. And it's salutary, perhaps, that we're having this discussion now at this particular time. I think, though, that despite the skies with their strange colors, and despite what we're seeing in the burning forests, we mustn't feel that there is no point to our trying to tackle climate change. This is a wake-up call, and it's one that we all should heed. But what I want to say today is it's one that we can heed, and we can get ahead of this curve. The decisions we make now will directly impact on our ability to safeguard the environment for future generations. The United Kingdom has the honor to be hosts of COP26, following up the Paris Climate Agreement 5 years ago. We will do that in November, and I'll say a bit more about that later. But we really want to take tackling climate change to a more ambitious level to mark a step change from Paris. I think everything that's happened in the intervening 5 years since Paris, those have been very good steps. They've been incremental. I think we all know that to make a real transformative difference, we need to do something that has much more of a step change quality to it. Now, I know that the Los Angeles Business Council, cities like Los Angeles, states like California, you are absolutely ready to step up. And we have been working very closely in preparation for COP with a lot of governors, state legislatures, and city halls right the way around the US. And we have consulates general right across the US, and this is the most important thing they are doing this year. We've long seen California as a leader on climate. We signed an agreement on climate change and clean energy cooperation with Governor Schwarzenegger, who we just saw in 2006. And we have seen efforts with Scotland in particular on halting emissions. And we've had efforts with the mayor, the current mayor, who is a friend of COP and an advisor to the UK government on climate issues. So it's a great honor to be able to be here today. But despite all these good things, as I say, they are incremental. And I think we all know deep in our hearts that we need to do much more, and we need to be cheerleaders to get other people to do much more. This week, the United Nations over in New York celebrates its 75th anniversary. I used to be the ambassador at the United Nations. Last year, the British government pledged $11 billion over 5 years to tackle climate change. And we've been working with the Secretary General to make climate change a big theme of this year. And the Secretary General will say that it's his most important priority and that we are running out of time to save the planet and make the changes necessary. So I think it's very fitting that in its 75th anniversary year, the Secretary General really wants to orientate all of the United Nations onto doing things to tackle climate change, and in particular to help developing countries come to terms with what that means for the way they run their economies. I mentioned COP26. We have the honor to host that next year with Italy. It will be in Scotland, in Glasgow. And we really want to, we aspire, in fact, to be a global leader in tackling climate change at this difficult time. And we accept that if you aspire to be a global leader in something that places a particular burden on us to pony up and actually set an example and take some hard decisions ourselves. So in respect of that, I'd just like to mention we were the first country to set economy-wide, legally binding emission reductions targets, and we did that back in 2008. And since then, we have nearly halved, 43%, our emissions against 1990 levels, and we have managed to grow the economy by 75%. So I think, if I may, I think that's a really important point. It doesn't matter what your politics are. Climate change can be tackled in ways that benefit all of society from all political parties. It can be tackled in ways that really contribute to growing the economy. These are choices that can be made, but they are choices for growth. And I think it's really important to stress that. Last year, we committed to legally binding net zero emissions by 2050. And we were just behind California's own announcement in that respect. And I think that's really important, because both UK and California, we're the 5th and 6th largest economies in the world, and we know that zero carbon economy has to be the growth story of the future. And to do that, we need to harness all the innovation and commitment that we can from civil society, from ordinary citizens, from investors, from business, from banks, and also from regional and national governments, moving the global economy to net zero while building resilience to the impacts that climate has. And again, I just want to stress that there are opportunities here. This is not all about stopping doing things, important as that is. We want to take renewed action to hold temperature rise to well below 2 degrees. And as the Secretary General of the UN has said, make our really best efforts and stretch the ambition to limit warming to 1.5 degrees. So for COP26 in Glasgow, we, the UK and Italy, we are asking countries to come forward with even more ambitious, nationally determined contributions and long-term strategies to reach zero carbon wherever possible. And we're also asking that, as I said, of states, of city halls, and of the private sector to announce net zero targets and to sign up to the Race to Zero. Our teams right across the US, including in LA and San Francisco, are working with you, working with local communities to support these ambitious commitments. We have 5 really key areas we want to focus on at Glasgow in November next year. And we think that these 5 areas represents the vital global market shifts we need if we're to make an impact, a transformative impact on global warming. The first of these is energy. Transition to net zero requires accelerating the transition to a clean energy future. We want to encourage countries, businesses, communities to embrace the economic and social benefits of cheaper renewable energy. And I think the UK is now, thanks to increased storage power, now the leader in wind power, certainly in Europe, if not around the world. And we need to make sure that the transition to clean power goes 4 times faster than it is at the moment if we're to really make an impact on global warming. And at COP26, what we want to do is work with other countries to double the rate of global investment in clean power, to support a fair transition away from coal, and that includes countries whose overseas development assistance might be putting money into coal stations. We'd like them to use that development assistance to fund other projects. We want to see an increase in innovation in clean energy technologies. California, in fact, the United States leads the world in innovation science, and there's more we can do here. We want to tackle energy inefficiency, particularly in buildings. One of the state governors told me that a business's main costs lie in the energy costs of its buildings. So that's fantastically important. And in addition, we want to increase affordable access to electricity for nearly 1 billion more people, which is a huge amount, but so important. And we personally, as the UK, we've committed to ending the use of coal power by 2024. And California, Washington, Oregon, Hawaii, and the city of Los Angeles itself are members of the UK-Canadian Powering Past Coal Alliance. and that has helped ensure that 1/3 of the OECD's coal power capacity is now scheduled to close. Our second aim for Glasgow is on transport. We want to double the pace of the global transition to zero emission vehicles, to have all new car sales zero emission by 2040 or earlier. Electric vehicles are cheaper to run than fossil fuel cars. We've announced that we will bring forward our target, ending the conventional sale of new and petrol diesel cars to 2035. And we know that here in California, most of these efforts on low emission vehicles, they're at the state level, but cities and businesses obviously have a vital role to play. And we were absolutely delighted to see the California announcement to 2045 being the date by which all new commercial trucks sold in California would be zero emissions, which is a fantastic example of climate leadership. Our third point for Glasgow is about adaptation and resilience. Even if we stopped everything today, the world would still need to deal with significant climate disruption, and some countries, particularly those small island developing states, many of them with archipelagos, it is particularly difficult for them to cope with these effects, and we want to help those countries build up their resilience, leaving no one behind. Fourthly, for Glasgow, we want to focus on nature. We want to restore natural habitats and ecosystems. That's crucial to preserve biodiversity, but it's also true that climate change and biodiversity loss are inseparable, and we need to tackle both of them together, and that means tackling what we do on land as well as how we look after the oceans. We cannot meet, in fact, we will not be able to meet the temperature goals of the Paris Agreement unless we can restore, protect, and enhance nature. And nature-based solutions can indeed provide around 1/3 of the cost-effective mitigation we need by 2030 so we can stabilize temperature to below 2 degrees. And it might also help us deal with the extreme weather that you're experiencing. I talked to the governor of Colorado the other day. He's had wildfires as well. We really do need to put this front and center. And we also need to protect the livelihoods of developing country peoples who rely on nature to give them what they need. Our fifth idea for Glasgow, our last idea, is about finance. I can't stress how important it is that we get this right as the start of everything, if you like. And the previous governor of the Bank of England, Mark Carney, who's Canadian, has been appointed by the UN to help them manage climate finance and the sorts of things that need to be done. And Mr. Carney was one of the people who led the efforts to put the global economy right after the financial crash in 2008. And I think it's not fanciful to say that this new task around climate finance is every bit as important, if not more important, than 2008. We want our financial systems to be greener, we want them to unlock growth, and of course, we want them to create sustainable jobs. Net zero, if we want to achieve net zero, that means a whole economy transition. Every company, every bank, every investor needs credible plans for transition and green investment. And we want to work to have more funding for low carbon resilient investments while helping developing countries get greater access to green finance. I think COVID-19, alongside the wildfires, has been a very powerful reminder of just how vulnerable countries, peoples, and the world system is to systemic risks. And as we recover from COVID, we believe we have a choice. We can return to business as usual and forget tackling climate change and thereby lock in the sorts of disasters and degradation that are leading to the sad situation in wildfires in California and sea level rises. Or we can take a deep breath and we can say we have an opportunity coming out of COVID to reset the dial on a number of important areas, to finance zero carbon, to finance a more resilient and adapting world, to help developing countries get to grips with this, and to put in place the instruments and mechanisms that will keep this rolling so that we can move forward and have a much more sustainable world. As far as the UK goes, we're committed to a green recovery from COVID. We are investing abroad as well as at home to create sustainable jobs and to make sure that we link all these challenges, not just of climate change and biodiversity that I mentioned earlier, but also crucially of public health. And I think this is the one new thing, if I may, that has come out of COVID. It's the link of public health to these other areas. And we have an opportunity, if we want to take it, if we want this mission, to be able to link all those and address them in the round. And as we do so, we will have an opportunity to show that transparent, liberal, open societies and the way we tackle problems is the right model as we come out of the COVID pandemic. The time for action, as you know better than anyone else, is now. We really look forward to COP26, and we look forward particularly to working with our friends in Los Angeles and California to make it the transformative success and successor to Paris that we need if we're to protect our world.